Welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news update show. Talk ahead of the Southampton game, we'll talk about Amorim's presser and more. But breaking news coming out from many sources that, to be honest, I don't 100% trust, but had already one or two of you guys mentioning it to me that apparently Garnacho and Napoli have some kind of agreement. That doesn't mean that Garnacho is moving to Napoli, but apparently there's an agreement struck in terms of like personal terms and from Garnacho's side, which could suggest that Garnacho's open to leaving United and going to Napoli. Where's that come from? What is the truth in that? And what do we actually know from the real credible sources in regards to Garnacho to Italy? Mbuemo to Manchester United. Man United monitoring Mbuemo, doing the first steps ahead of the move in January. If Rashford, Antony, Garnacho, all three of them linked to exits. Not all three of them will go, but two out of three could definitely go. United could make a move for Mbuemo to replace them. We've got more news and updates on Antony. Multiple teams interested in a loan. Rashford, apparently his deal is meant to be sorted today, according to Italian media. Garnacho to Napoli and a few more stories. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you this. My mic every now and then is disconnecting itself, so I've ordered a new one, which is the same mic, but I've just ordered a new version of it. It must be going. So if there's any audio issues, let me know down below, and I do apologise ahead of time. I recorded my whole pre-record earlier to find out the mic was just not plugged in the whole time and the sound did not sound great. But let's dive into the news. Let's dive into all of the stories. So essentially, Garnacho to Napoli is the news coming out, the news that people are talking about. And I'm a bit skeptical about the source and about where the information has come from. But this is big news. This is a big story. So we've got to get into it first. So, Napoli have struck an agreement in principle with Garnacho after the club's sporting director Giovanni Mane met his representatives in Barcelona this week. Garnacho's camp is said to have immediately made it clear that he was tempted by the prospect of working with Conte in Naples. So they're saying Napoli have struck an agreement in principle with Garnacho. So that's big news. That's a big statement. That's a big story. They're not the only source to say that. Alejandro Garnacho has given his availability to join Napoli in January, came out earlier today. So interesting news coming out. Now, CM.com don't feel like they're a good source of information. I can't remember them breaking something and getting it right in recent times. But this is a statement. This is something that's been rumoured. And what we do know is that Alejandro Garnacho's agent did have a meeting with Giovanni Mane in Barcelona. We know that Garnacho's agent has been speaking to Napoli. Reliable sources actually confirmed the Garnacho's agent's been speaking to Napoli, and what reliable sources were saying is yes, Garnacho's agent is talking to other clubs in case Garnacho needs a way out of United. We know there's this talk of Ineos being willing to sell Garnacho, FFP this, FFP that. Garnacho Amorim, he's been disciplined, he's not starting load. Garnacho's agent is looking around and is having chats because it is something that may need to be considered, because will Garnacho work as a 10 in Amorim system long term? The club are semi-open to selling him at the right price due to FFP PSR troubles, and obviously he's not had the best season. Now, I've always said this, January is Rashford and Antony out, Garnacho keep him until the summer. In summer, Ruben Amorim, he can assess, and if he feels that Garnacho just isn't a fit for his system long-term, fair enough, sell Garnacho, but only for the right price, because I know that Garnacho is a poor couple of months, but I still think that he's a good player that works hard. There is questions about like attitude and getting ahead of himself. Decision making could improve, but obviously last 2 games, 2 assists, really good decisions. Garnacho is one of those players where he's raw, and he's a raw player thrown into a bad environment, and he's out of form for the first time, really. And he could fight his way back into form and be really good these next 4 or 5 games, or maybe it just doesn't look that he's going to fit Amorim's system. But I think loads of people are jumping to conclusions on Alejandro Garnacho because he's had 2-3 poor months at United. And I think you've got to remember this guy is still, 19, 20 years of age, thrown into a poor environment. Like, I still believe that, Garnacho's a good player. And I'm very much in the stance of players like Garnacho and Delo may not be long-term fits in terms of Amorim's system, but they're both good players. So maybe in the summer, you maybe look at moving one of those guys on, because maybe they just don't fit what Amorim wants to do long term. But I wouldn't sell Garnacho in January. The only way I'd sell Garnacho in January is if £70 million comes in and United know that who they want to replace Garnacho, who fits Amorim's system, is available. I don't know if that's Mbuemo. I don't know. That could be. I like the look of Semenyo, not just because he scored yesterday, but I've been talking about him a while. Vissa, if we're looking for left-hand side, that's someone to look at. That could be more available and cheaper than Mbuemo. There's options out there, and I'll make that very, very clear. We have very little depth up front. To me, it makes no sense to sell him now anyway. Yeah. That's what I mean. If the focus is on getting Rashford and Antony out, Ineos want Rashford and Antony out. Ineos are open to selling Garnacho for 70 million because 70 million, come on, that's a lot of money. And Manchester United don't sell players. I think we haven't sold anyone for nearly that much since Ronaldo's gone. Maybe Lukaku went for a bit, but United don't sell players very often for big money. And of course, if Napoli are willing to pay 50 million for Garnacho now, of course United are going to hold out for 70 million because it's January. Maybe in summer United would look at 50 million for him, but in January they want 70 million because they don't want to sell him. For me, Højlund's not scoring, Xerxes not scoring, Mount's out till March and we can't rely on him to stay fit. Bruno can play 10, can play pivot, so can Ahmad, but Antony's not wanted and Rashford's not wanted. So unless United are confident that Garnacho isn't going to work as a 10 in Amorim's system, and there's a guy out there that they can get in January that they can afford in the 10 role in January, it makes zero sense. It makes zero sense to sell Garnacho now. In the summer, we can have a different chat about selling Garnacho, but let's see what he does form-wise between now and the summer. We can have a different chat because Garnacho is a traditional winger, 4-3-3 suit him. Of course, it's very, very different at under Ruben Amorim. We can have a different chat in the summer about Garnacho, but I wouldn't sell him now. Someone said, "Hello, Alice. When are you launching your Dis CD? Roasting, catching bigger fish, Arsenal. Jokes aside, Sweden front three, Isak, Shokeres, Kulu's for." I mean, that is a top front three. Although I'm assuming it would work best as Jokeres and Isak split strikers with Kulu in behind. And then they even have players like Alanga that could do a job on the wing. Sweden have some really good players. They just need the defence sorted, don't they? But yeah, I was roasting Arsenal actually. Bigger fish to fry. We don't care about the Carabao. We don't care about the FA Cup. We're Arsenal. We got bigger fish to fry is what they said last year. And now they're crying that they're not going to win a trophy. So they do care about the Carabao. It's interesting, the mentality shift in Arsenal. We're going to talk about Mbuemo in a second. I'd like to see Garnacho supported by a proper dynamic left wing back in the system before saying he isn't suited. I agree. For me, I would not sell Garnacho in January. The only way I consider it is if 70 million come in, because that is a lot of money. And Ruben Amorim thinks, okay, he knows who he wants, but I wouldn't sell Garnacho in January. Rashford is who Amorim wants out. Find suitors for Rashford. Antony just needs to go anywhere because he isn't good enough. And then we look to bring someone in. And then we brought someone in. We've lost Antony. We've lost Rashford. Cool. In the summer, we maybe look and have another chat about it. As well. If the replacement for Garnacho is Dorgles, that would be disappointing. We'd if we sell Garnacho and replace him with Dorgles, I would have questions over Ineos. I would. And maybe Dorgles would be a great signing workout, but Garnacho, I feel like sometimes what we do with our youngsters is our youngsters come through. Our youngsters make a really good first impression. So then we overhype our youngsters. And we're like, oh, they're amazing. Garnacho comes through, Maino first comes through. They've had 5, 6, 7 games and we're hyping them up. And we do this with all our youngsters. First 7, 8, 9, 10 games, we hype them up. Then they start playing more and more because they've been really good in the first couple of games for the club. And then ultimately, because the team performances drop, and it's nothing to do with the youngsters, it's to do with the experienced players not being good enough and the toxicity at Man United, the young players get brought down with them. And then we start slandering our young players who the season before were the heroes when the experienced players weren't performing. And then we start underrating our young players. And I think that's what's happened with Garnacho. As he comes through, he makes an impact. He gets overrated a bit by everybody. Because none of the experienced players are doing anything. Antony's £85 million. Garnacho's benched him. And I liked Garnacho on the right wing last season. He did a really good job. And Garnacho had a good season. And he was 18 and he scored these big goals. And then we do this thing where I think we overhype the players. And then the minute they run into a bad patch, we get reaction, we write them off, and all of us. And I think our fan base is underrated Garnacho now. I think Garnacho is a good player, a very, very exciting raw prospect. Decision making needs to improve. His ability to use his physicality to hold off defenders needs to improve. His ability to create separation from defenders needs to improve, and it can improve, and he needs the right person there to develop him. But his instincts, his directness, his eagerness to attack, very good. Mentality is a question. He works up at mentality in terms of social media comments affecting him. Discipline is a question. Decision making is a question. But I think that's one of the issues we have as a fan base is, Maino was being brought down this season after, the hype around him last season is, let's stop going off 3 games, he's really good, and then the next 3 games he's really bad. Because I feel like Højlund could score 4 goals versus Southampton, and everyone would be saying that Højlund's amazing. Then the next game he'd be crap, and people would be saying, Højlund needs to go. There's a lot of reactionary game by game, and I think the best way to look at it is you assess it over a season. That's what I always say in terms of young players. Look at the class of 92, for example. They came into a good system with quality established and talent around them. Exactly. 40 million from Mbuemo, 30 left to get a left back until summer. I think Mbuemo would be 50 million, to be honest. I think in the summer he would have been 40 million, and I said that Newcastle should have got him in the summer. No one picked him up in the summer. I think he'll be 50 million now because of his form. But reports coming in that Napoli have struck an agreement in principle with Alejandro Garnacho. Again, whether this is true or not, we have to wait and see. I'm skeptical about this report, but it's a big claim, it's a big report. And this doesn't mean that Garnacho would move to Napoli, but they're saying that, Garnacho is willing to move to Napoli. He's saying yes to the deal. He's willing to move to Napoli. That is what this report is saying. It's saying Garnacho has basically said to Napoli, I'm willing to join. So, let's dive into some more reports, because today was meant to be the day that we're meant to get some kind of big update and some big advancement on potentially Marcus Rashford leaving Manchester United. Apparently his brother's gone to Milan today to tell Milan he wants to move to them or inform them of Rashford's decision. And today or tomorrow we should be getting big news that Marcus Rashford is leaving United, is what sort of the media have been claiming these last 2-3 days, that this Wednesday is a huge day in regards to Marcus Rashford and his Manchester United future. So, what has been said in the last hours, and has there been any breaking news on Marcus Rashford in terms of, is there a breakthrough of Rashford to Milan? Are Barcelona going to go in for Marcus Rashford? What is the situation here with Marcus Rashford? Marcus Rashford's brother agent, Dwayne Maynard, is set to engage Manchester United over potential proposals for the forward's exit after offering players to multiple European clubs in recent weeks. I don't know why they have to word that so complicated. I don't know why. Just say Rashford's agent is, having talks with multiple European clubs in the last few weeks, and they're going to talk to United about it and the potential proposals and pick the right one. Don't know why they have to write that out so confusingly. Anyway, today is a decisive day for Rashford's future, claimed Di Marzio. Now, Di Marzio used to be one of the best sources of information back in the day. He's sort of gone downhill a little bit in terms of, I think there is a bit of guesswork here and there for Di Marzio. But Italian media are claiming that today is the day that's decisive for Rashford's future because his brother is going to tell AC Milan of his decision. So maybe Manchester United, Marcus Rashford's brother, has had chat about the proposals Rashford's got, about the offers he's got. Maybe Rashford has said, his first choice and the second choice, and maybe United is saying, well, we could fees this or we could fees that. I think that's sort of the situation going on with Marcus Rashford. But there is a few updates coming on that apparently today is the day. So, any other updates on Rashford? According to Ben Jacobs, Marcus Rashford is in advanced talks to join AC Milan. His representatives have returned to Italy for fresh discussions, and his preference is to join Milan as long as Barcelona do not make an attempt at the 11th hour. Milan need to make a final decision on whether to recruit Rashford or Kyle Walker within the next 24 hours, says Ben Jacobs. Now, I don't like to slander people, but I'm going to say something about Ben Jacobs. I feel that Ben Jacobs never gives anything exclusive. When loads of other media are reporting about Casemiro to this club, then Ben Jacobs puts out reports saying the same thing. And then when loads of media report that, Casemiro might not go to this club, then Ben Jacobs contradicts himself and puts out a report. So Ben Jacobs 2 weeks ago, when there was a heavy talk around Casemiro going to Saudi, puts out that Casemiro's in talks with Saudi. And then when some other sources come out this week and say Casemiro to Saudi isn't that close, Ben Jacobs coming out saying Casemiro to Saudi isn't that close. Now, Ben Jacobs is saying Rashford's in advanced talks with AC Milan, but that's just because loads of media outlets have come out and said that Rashford's in advanced talks with AC Milan, today's decision game today, but Barcelona's first choice. My honest opinion on Ben Jacobs is he never puts anything out and then everyone else copies him and that ends up being true. I feel like he just sees what other people are writing and just says the same thing to... I don't know. He's saying that, he's in advanced talks to join Milan. A lot of the Italian media are saying that. But he's not offering anything new. A lot of Italian media are saying he's in advanced talks to join AC Milan. Something's going to happen in the next 24 hours. Rashford's made his decision. La-di-la. But again, I am skeptical of some of the things that he says as well. I don't think he's a liar, but I think he's a just follow the crowd kind of journalist. It was also reported that a meeting is underway between Marcus Rashford's agent and AC Milan, who hope to obtain the player's approval in the next few hours. So apparently, as we speak, there's a meeting going on with Rashford's agent and AC Milan. So a decision on Rashford's future could be made sort of as we're speaking right now, as the agent is going on. People saying Rashford going nowhere. I think David Ornstein feels confident that Rashford will leave, to be honest. Someone says, don't worry about Garnacho. His hero is Ronaldo. In 2 years, if Madrid come knocking, guarantee he'll leave. But if Madrid come knocking for Garnacho, that means he's a good player. So I don't mind if Madrid come knocking for Garnacho. January is flying by. Wouldn't surprise me. All this talk with Marcus ends up staying. It feels like he could end up staying, but I do think he'll leave. But I think he's going to go on deadline day. You know what Man United are like? You know how Sancho, the whole summer, then he finally left? I feel like United will sort something out for Rashford on deadline day as well. It's just one of those situations. Do you think anyone will leave? They want Casemiro to go, but I don't know. It depends on Saudi. They want Antony to go, but I don't know. There's not many offers there. And they want Rashford to go. Rashford, Casemiro, and Antony is who they want to go. Of course, Lindelof and Eriksen as well. But they're going to wait for offers. Let me just get my water because my throat is drying up there. They want Rashford, Antony, and Casemiro to go because they're on big wages. Whether they do go, I don't know. Garnacho is a possibility. Malassi is a possibility. Evans potentially is a possibility as well, but I don't think they'll get rid of Evans. Xerxes was a possibility at the beginning of the window, but he seemed to rule it out and saying he wants to stay to the summer. And Juventus now have got Kolo Muani, which I think rules out Xerxes to Juventus. But Rashford, Antony, and Casemiro are the ones to watch. I think something will happen with Rashford, but I think it's going to drag on. I think it's going to be like Sancho in the summer, to be honest. Man United like to make things drag on. Ruben Amorim apparently said that he wanted all the business done within 2 weeks of the January window. We're 15 days into January, so it's been 2 weeks and 1 day in the January window. Plus, they have December to prep for it, and they haven't done anything, which, to be honest, doesn't massively surprise me. But there's more to get into. There's more news. Eriksen can't see leaving. Why wouldn't... Yeah. The thing is, Eriksen, if he runs down his contract, is going to get more clubs in the summer. He's going to get a bonus signing on fee. The way Eriksen knows he's not going to play between now and the end of the season unless they have to. Eriksen and Casemiro basically know that they're not going to play unless the club have to play them, because we saw that versus Newcastle, why they won't play, and Collier came ahead of them. So maybe that prompts Eriksen and Casemiro to look at an exit more, particularly because Ruben Amorim didn't bring them in. Ten Hag did. It's a new manager. Eriksen wants to play. He's frustrated with lack of minutes under Amorim, but it's 6 months and he gets more money and he gets more choice over where he moves to. I think if there's a club that Eriksen wants to go to that are willing to pay $2 million to maybe bring him in January, that maybe need a creative player, maybe Eriksen goes. But I think he'll wait it out for offers. Same with Lindelof. And then I think with Casemiro, it's about wages in Saudi. The only people that are going to give Casemiro the wages he wants is Saudi. I think he's frustrated with the lack of minutes at United, but I think, again, it just depends what happens with Saudi. Big up everybody. We've got 900 people watching, so please do go ahead and hit that like button if you have not already. And, of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date on all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates, and more. So we've got a bit more to talk about in regards to Rashford. Ruben Amorim, when asked about Marcus Rashford, said, I just want to win tomorrow. My focus on win tomorrow. I will choose the player that I think are best to win the game tomorrow. I'm focused on that. So that's all we need to know on Marcus Rashford. I'm kind of bored of talking about Marcus Rashford because I feel like we say the same thing over and over and over again for ages, and we're just waiting for something to happen. Ultimately, we know that there's something going on with Milan. Now, what is the latest on Mbuemo to United? Because this isn't the only story, but Fabrice Hawkins, who's a very good source of information, a good journalist, I'm going to say this now, said that Manchester United, Tottenham and Arsenal have gathered information on Bryan Mbeumo, and they could try and sign him before the end of the window. United, Tottenham and Arsenal all want an attacker. Manchester United bringing an attacker in depends on a sale. If Rashford goes, there's leeway there, there's funds there. Now, Bryan Mbeumo is a good player, and I'm a big fan of him. He could play as a striker, and he could play as a 10 in Amorim's system. He's very good in the pockets. He's very clinical. Liverpool may look at him in the summer as well. Good player. Arsenal need that kind of player, but I think Arsenal need a left-sided player more, although Saka is out. Tottenham, I think he'd be a good player for Tottenham. Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United, they're all looking at attackers. Whether Brentford sell and how much Brentford would sell for is the big question. How can they replace him? But he's a player that I'd like to see United move for. He's a player I'd like to see United. I like Visser as well. I like Semenyo as well. I think Semenyo could do very well at United because I think he could play as a wing back as well as a 10. But there is a lot of talk about Mbuemo to United. Now, do I see it happening? If I'm going to be honest, no. This is credible journalists linking Mbuemo to United. But no, I don't see it happening because it's the January window. I just don't see why Brentford would sell him. Unless we're willing to spend big, and I don't think we want to spend big and overpay anymore, I cannot see it happening. Would I like it to happen? Yes, absolutely. We also were told last week, we were told on Friday, according to Team Talk, that Manchester United apparently willing to bid to get the 40 million Mbuemo deal done, and it's claimed that Mbuemo is a wanted man at Old Trafford. There's other sources saying that United are willing to pay 40 million to get the Mbuemo deal done. They want it done in January. They want him at Old Trafford. Again, I would take that report with a pinch of salt because it came from Team Talk, but this isn't the only report. This came out last week. Manchester United are willing to bid 40 million to snatch Mbeumo from Arsenal's grasp. It's claimed that Brian Mbeumo is a wanted man at Old Trafford and that as the Red Devils are ready to sanction a bid. I don't know the truth behind that. I don't know if they are going to go through Mbeumo. I think that Fabrice Hawkins is reliable. I don't think Team Talk is reliable, but I do think if there's a sale, of course we look at Mbeumo. If there's a sale, Mbeumo to Man United is something that for sure is going to be looked at. But it depends on the sale. It depends on the sale. Are we 15th? Are we 15th? I know West Ham won. Where are we in the league? Don't tell me we're 15th. Don't tell me we're 15th. We were 13th when I last checked. Man United in the league. We're 14th. But if Palace win and we don't, we could be 15th, which is very concerning. Very, very concerning. So we need to beat Southampton. If we don't beat Southampton, oh my. We really need to beat Southampton because if we beat Southampton, we go back, we can go into 12th. We can go into 12th. And I tell you what, we could go into 15th if we don't start winning games. So we need to beat Southampton for sure. I mean, I love how I said we need to beat Southampton. We should beat Southampton. We're miles better than them. If we don't beat Southampton, it's a disgrace. I'm going to talk about Amorim's comments. Actually, let's talk about that now. I want to talk about Amorim's comments ahead of the Southampton game, by the way, guys. I do want to dive into his comments because I thought Amorim made some really interesting comments ahead of the Southampton game. I will dive into that in a second. He said, I think this next game will teach me more from my players than the last two. There is no expectation for us in the last two games. Nobody expects. But now they're expecting us to win and play well. So we will learn more. So this is what Ruben Amorim's saying on the Southampton game. This game's going to teach him more. The last two games was off the ball, work, defend, fight for your life. But this is a game where he's going to see United on the ball, what they can do on the ball, have more of the ball. And there's an expectation for them to win. So can they win that game? He said on Southampton, it's difficult. It's different because the most difficult thing to train in one team is the way you build the ball and the way you play in the final third, which needs to improve. We've shown the last two games we can work as a unit off the ball. We can defend well, but we need to be able to create. He's saying, as you know, big teams do that well. We need to be able to score. We need to be able to create. And for us versus Southampton is a game where we need to win 3-0 and show what we can do and show that we can create. He says we have for a long time a lack of goals because we don't spend a lot of time in the last third. We did against Nottingham Forest, but we need to improve. We could have beat Nottingham Forest or at least got a draw, but we were wasting chances. And I think what Ruben Amorim is saying is versus Southampton, we need a score. We need to take our chances. And that actually, you know, this is going to teach him even more because he's learned from the last two games that his players can work hard and do defend well and stay disciplined off the ball. But this Southampton game, that's going to teach Ruben Amorim what we can do on the ball. That's gonna be a big message. We need a Premier League proven forward, not another unproven player. And Mbuemo's proven. For me, I like Semenyo because he could play wing back and 10. I think I wouldn't mind a Gyökeres coming in because of Amorim's system. I know he's not PL proven, but I like the look of Mbuemo because he can score goals in the Premier League. I do. For me, I'm happy to bring in two attacking signings, one Premier League proven player, and then like a Gyökeres, who is a top goal scorer. So Cunha and Gyökeres would be my ideal profiles because Ahmad right 10, Gyökeres striker, Cunha left 10. That would be my ideal profiles, and then two new wing backs, another player with legs in midfield for depth, and maybe a left centre back who's quite physical. That's what I think United need in the summer. Will we do that? Probably not. It's not FIFA. It's probably not the most realistic. Hard to imagine many clubs selling mid-season, yeah. Especially in the Premier League, yeah, like Kirkes and Mbuemo, Semenyo, it would be brilliant. I'd like to take Semenyo and Kirkes at Bournemouth, but they're not going to sell in January, and even in the summer, they'll want their money's worth. You know, they're not stupid, Bournemouth. They'll want their money's worth. Let's hope we can get in a run of good performances. Do you know what? We've got 2 good results in a row versus Arsenal and Liverpool. Let's not go and ruin it because we can't beat Southampton. Like Southampton at home, honestly. My head, if we don't get a result tomorrow, my head, people. But yeah, let's go back into transfer news. Let's go back into transfer stories. But I just wanted to touch upon what Ruben Amorim said, because there is a few more stories coming out. So this came from the United Red Report on X, but they've said this, per Graham Bailey on the MUFC MPB YouTube channel. He apparently has said this. At the start of January, there was little interest in Rashford due to United wanting a permanent deal. Now we know there's a lot of interest in Rashford from Juventus and Napoli had interest. Obviously, AC Milan, the main one in Italy, Borussia Dortmund, Monaco, apparently Atleti, but that didn't come from a reliable source, and Barcelona. So there's a lot more interest now because there's a loan deal. More interest generated when United made it clear that they'd accept a loan deal. If United don't cover substantial wages, he'll stay. So for Rashford to go, we still need to be able to cover some of his wages. Now, I think United have got to be careful not to get mugged off. I know that United are looking to move on Marcus Rashford, and I know that Amorim doesn't want Marcus Rashford and they want to move him on. But if United let Rashford go out on loan, a player of Rashford's calibre, and say, yeah, we'll pay 80% of his wages, we're just letting teams mug us off again. And that's one thing United have got to do. They can say, look, Rashford, you can go out on loan, you can do this, you can do that, you can get Rashford on loan. But United needs to have some kind of control and power over this loan, because United do get mugged off in the transfer window. People know that they can get what they want from United. You know, if you look at Chelsea, they sold Kai Havertz for 65 million. They sold Mason Mount for 55 million. Chelsea might be able to get 60 million from Nkunku from Bayern Munich. And you're telling me that, and Nkunku's been crap the last 2 seasons. Well, he's been injured and he hasn't worked under Maresca. You're telling me that, you know, with Rashford, who hasn't been great and he is on high wages, he's a good enough player that someone out there would happily pay his wages for a 6-month loan if they're desperate for a forward. They absolutely wouldn't. That's where United have got to be smart. Some people are like, get Rashford, get him gone now. Look, the goal is to get Rashford out. If you can get someone to cover, 80% of his wages, that's going to make a big difference. But United aren't going to pay most of Rashford's wages for him to go on loan, because it makes no sense when we're not scoring goals. So we need to be careful. We sold Alvaro for 6 million. We're very bad at doing business. We're very bad at doing business. As well, we're very bad at doing business, and it's about selling players and getting them out, but it's also about not being mugged off. £15 million for Elanga, £25 million for Jadon Sancho, and both Jadon Sancho and Elanga would start for us right now. And maybe you can blame that on Ineos for just, do you know what? Not the Elanga situation, but look, I wanted Jadon Sancho gone because of the way he acted on Ten Hag. He had to go, okay, 100%. But had they sat Ten Hag in the summer, we'd have Jadon Sancho, who fits Amorim's system, maybe playing quite well at United, and then maybe there would have been more out there for Rashford to leave in the summer who doesn't fit Amorim's system. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Jokeris Cunha Mendes, how much money do we think United has? We can afford one at best. Yeah, I don't think we can bring in those signings. I'm just saying they're the dream. But one thing is we can't sell. We can't sell for shite. And you see the way Chelsea sell, and you see 15 million for Elanga, 25 million for Sancho. Elanga probably starts at wing back for us. Sancho starts as one of the 10s. And you see Chelsea would have got 50 million for Sancho if you'd gone to them and had 2 bad seasons. We don't. And that's because teams know they can mug us off. And that's what we've got to be careful with. Now, in terms of other exits, because we've got update and news on potentially Antony leaving United, it was said that it believes that United will cover half of his wages if he went out on loan. The feeling is that Garnacho apparently will be gone at the end of summer. I don't think Garnacho is going to be sold in January. They're saying he thinks he'll be gone in the summer. So he's claiming that Garnacho could go in the summer, but not January. Doesn't think United will sign Colin Moani. He's gone to Juventus. Here we go. And United want to sell Casemiro this month, but it looks more likely he'll stay to the summer, said Graham Bailey. Antony has a few options. United are worried about loan deals killing players' value if they don't perform well. United would consider an 18-month loan for Antony. Basically, that's them saying we can't sell Antony, we need to get rid. But there is a number of clubs in talks about signing Antony on loan. Real Betis is one. The problem with Real Betis is they're not willing to pay much at all of Antony's wages. And I think because United was stupid to sign a player who was earning 20k a week and say, do you want 200k a week? When any other normal club would have said, you're on 20k a week, we'll give you 75k a week. All of a sudden, United are thinking, oh my God, no one wants to pay Antony's 200k a week wages. I wonder why no one wants to pay Antony's 200k a week wages, Manchester United. I wonder why. So United are struggling to sell Antony. Big up everybody. Let's go for 300 likes. We've got over 900 people watching, so big up everybody. Sancho was damaged goods on a huge wage. We weren't going to get big fee for him. I think we could have got 40 million for Sancho. I think maybe 35 million due to desperation to sell, but we could have got at least 10 million more. We could have got 25 million for Elanga and we could have got 35 million for Sancho. If we were Chelsea, we'd have got 40 million for Sancho and we'd have got 30 million for Elanga. Let's be honest, we would have. We would have got 70 million for those two players instead of 40 million if we were a good selling club, if we were City. Because Cole Palmer, fantastic signing for Chelsea, but never scored a goal in the league and they sold him for 45 million. People are saying they take 45 million for Garnacho. Garnacho's had 2 established seasons. Cole Palmer was 20 when Man City sold him, and Cole Palmer at 20 had achieved less than Garnacho at 20. Okay? And they got 45 million for him. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that Garnacho's better than Cole Palmer and that Garnacho will be better than Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer's incredible. But what I'm saying is, Cole Palmer was a great talent, great academy player, but had showed some good cameos here and there for City. They got 45 million for him. Elanga had done more under Ragnick than Cole Palmer had under Pep and had more minutes. But obviously Cole Palmer was a better talent, better ceiling. He was unbelievable in the academy days. But just to show you that Chelsea get 35 million for Lewis Hall, City get 45 million for Cole Palmer, both unbelievable players, 100%. But they're able to get more, where we get 6 million for Alvaro Fernandez. That's my example. I think Cole Palmer and Lewis Hall are absolutely worth those price tags. But I'm just saying how they were able to sell them, who didn't have many minutes under their belt as well. United need to get better at selling. Anyway, continuing on. Amorim did say we have some doubts versus Southampton. Of course, Dalot will be suspended for the Southampton game. He will not be involved. But Ruben Amorim also spoke about other player doubts. He said, we have some doubts versus Southampton. A few players were tired from the last game versus Arsenal. Ruben Amorim said, we cannot afford to lose players for many games and our players are ready to cope with the demands of the game. There are no changes in the players available, but there is definitely some doubts due to exhaustion. I think Maguire could be one of them. I'd like to see Euro. I'd absolutely love to see Euro start, 100%. Rasmus can get us goals if he gets more service. No need of MBE. I think Marcus Rashford has to go because of the manager situation. But if you got Marcus Rashford in form, he scores goals. I think elements of Højlund's game needs to improve, the movement, the wrestling. But I also think that Højlund's in a graveyard shift. And if we created loads of chances, Højlund is more clinical than Xerxes. Xerxes adds more to our all-round play in the 9 role, but Højlund is the better finisher. Mount, Antony and Nana, imagine what we could have done with that money. 85 million for Antony, 55 million for Mount, so that takes us to 140 million, and Nana must have been 40 million, 180 million. And Nana, I think we needed the keeper. It's not the worst deal in the world, but it's not super convincing. But the 140 million for Mason, Mount and Antony, that could have got you Elise. For 40 million. I think Elise went to Bayern Munich for 45 million. That could have got you Elise. Okay? And you'd still have 100 million left. That could have got you Elise, and you still have 100 million left. And I've said that 3 times. I said this now. We should have got. I said we needed a more defensive-minded midfielder than Mount, Lavia, Casado, for example. Casado, you could get Casado and Elise for the same price of Mount and Antony, and I think we'd have been in a better position. I think we'd have been in a much better position. I do. Harry Kane, and imagine if we had Harry Kane and Elise, because Elise would suit Amorim's system as well. We'd be in a much better position. It's quite crazy money as well. Problem is Onana's just not an elite goalkeeper, and United needs that. I agree. I think Onana's one of those where we look at selling him in 2026 if we just don't feel he's offering enough. In 2025, it is the wing backs, it is the attack, and it is Casemiro and Eriksen are going to go, so we need another body in midfield. Potentially, we need another left centre back with Martinez struggling with the wide channels, or we take the risk on Kokonki. But for me, Cunha, if Wolves get relegated, 45 million. Chokres, 58 million. I'd look at Nuno Mendes or Kirkus for left wing back. I'd even look at Semenyo as a right wing back, right 10 option. Same with Dibbling, someone with a bit of versatility there. And then I'd be looking at whether it be Baliba, whether it be Stiller, someone with a bit of legs in midfield. That's what I'm looking at, and then potentially left centre back, depending on the Conky situation. I'm really happy with the Agate signing, though. Agate's really impressed me. People were skeptical because he's not the best on the ball, but I have to say, all we needed was someone that was actually going to run and do work off the ball. We needed someone that was going to be a monster off the ball, and that's what we got in Agate, because that's what the squad was massively lacking. But anyway, guys, how are you doing? Please do go ahead and hit that like button if you did enjoy today's show. You're welcome to subscribe if you're new. Daily shows. I do a 10-minute video every single morning on the channel, which just rounds up all the news in 10 minutes. And then I do a sort of 30 to 45-minute live show where we discuss the news. I get involved, get your chats involved, and more. I do have some interesting videos planned over the next month. Just depends on the news and when I can get them out. There's quite a few interesting stories going about, but I'm going to wrap up today's show here. I'm just going to make sure there's no breaking news, nothing coming out now, but if there is any breaking news, I'll be back tonight with a video. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time. Bye.